A labyrinth, it has been said, appears to lend some organization to what looks like chaos. But as one moves along the winding route, in the end, one comes to trust the path. Nietzsche said, you need chaos in your soul to give birth to a dancing star. I've seen dancing stars moving along labyrinths. Old people, young people, people in wheelchairs, others with walkers, and still more skipping or doing yoga or ballet. Both the experience of watching and that of physically moving through the labyrinth, that winding path that leads to a center and out again, is powerful. Some have described it as a nearly mystical experience. Some, it was okay. My favorite was this person's comment. Yeah, so felt a little confusing at times. After I got frustrated, I relaxed. I just relaxed, and I trusted in the path, knowing that it would end someday. That's a metaphor for life. Beautiful. That's the idea. This winding thing is a metaphor. One will fight the urge to rush through it, foregoing the lessons from reflection, or one will understand the potency of the life experience by slowing down enough to consider how the journey is going. The oldest recorded labyrinth is the Seven Circuit classical labyrinth, which is also referred to as the Cretan labyrinth or the Minoan maze. It's a petroglyph, meaning it was a type of design that was etched on a stone on the back of a clay tablet from Greece around 1200 BCE. We're still not sure where the first labyrinth appeared. It popped up in cultures all over the world. Retold through the years, here is the passed down story from the Greeks regarding the first labyrinth. It is full of greed, sinful lust, death, love, and connection. All the exciting stuff that makes epic mythologies so good, so memorable. Poseidon, the great god from the sea, sent to King Minos, ruler of Crete, a magnificent white bull. Poseidon expected King Minos to sacrifice this bull as an offering in return to Poseidon. King Minos, however, wanted to keep the magnificent animal, the white bull, for himself, so he sacrificed another bull instead. Poseidon was not happy about this. In fact, he was furious, so he punished Minos by making Pasiphae, Minos' wife, fall in love with the white bull. Pasiphae was out of control with desire, and she found a way to mate with the bull. Now look, I told you there would be sinful lust in this. So I know you're all thinking about that last comment. I did warn you. Let's move on. Now in time, the woman gave birth to a son who was half bull and half human. The son was called a Minotaur. King Minos was so enraged, he threw the Minotaur, what he perceived to be a monster, in the center of a labyrinth created by the divine builder known as Daedalus. Yes, that Daedalus, who had a son who inched too close to the sun. Every 9 years thereafter, the Minotaur was thrown into the center of the labyrinth. King Minos extracted 7 youths, boys, and 7 maidens, girls, so the story goes, and sent them inside the labyrinth as a sacrifice to the beast. 1 year, Theseus, son of King of Athens, volunteered to be one of the youth, or the boys, who was sent to enter the labyrinth to become a sacrifice. When Theseus arrived on the Isle of Crete, this is where the love part comes in, Ariadne, daughter of King Minos and Pasiphae, spotted Theseus and fell in love with him. She cringed to think that he would perish inside the labyrinth, so she gave him a ball of golden thread. Some people have said that ball of golden thread was actually strands of her golden hair, so that he could find his way out of the labyrinth. Nevertheless, as the story goes, armed with a spear and a ball of golden thread, Theseus traveled to the center of the labyrinth, slayed the Minotaur, and with Ariadne's cord found his way back out again. This is the end of the story that was just too gory for our children, but just dramatic enough to capture your attention and maybe remind you all of your Greek mythology from high school or college years. The legend of the Labyrinth and the Minotaur is notorious. Considered a hero's tale, we could write a volume of reactions as thick as a boulder regarding the meaning of this ancient fable. Researchers have explored the myriad remnants of the narrative, and have determined that there is really no one meaning about the earliest labyrinth imagery. But there is a powerful common theme that remains poignant through the ages. It is that the labyrinth is a metaphor for a life and the bravery it takes, and many of you know this, the bravery it takes to face the many twists and turns, the joys and the personal challenges your life, my life, and that of countless dangers throughout time have endured. One theory about the labyrinth is that it perhaps references a cosmic journey, as I mentioned with the children, which is one of the reasons why every year on multiple solstice occasions, times when the balance of day and night, the hours in day and night shifts, such as this coming December 21st, 2 weeks from Wednesday, there'll be an illuminated labyrinth out behind the parking lot. Consider this in a text titled Labyrinths, Ancient Paths of Wisdom and Peace, compiled by Virginia Westbury. British scholar Robert Graves, who's written widely on the origin of the story of the labyrinth, pointed out that this colorful legend may have represented the cosmic activities of the sun and the moon and the ancient primal gods. For example, consider this, quote, Pasiphae, whose name means the sun who shines on all, was a Cretan moon goddess, as was her daughter, Ariadne. The Minotaur's other name, Asterius, means starry, and hints at the divine status too. Many gods of the ancient world, including Osiris and Isis, were strongly associated with the stars, and there is, of course, the bull that we're all familiar with in a constellation of Taurus. Honestly, we don't know fact from fiction about the original Labyrinth story. However, what we do know from their enduring popularity is that the construction and the ability to move through a labyrinth are still relevant desires today. In our contemporary times, we find them in gardens, in parks, hospitals, and countless other locations. They are permanent installations and temporary structures. For nearly 25 years now, I've created labyrinths. For example, my favorite one was the one I walked with a guy who did the grounds at a fellowship I served years ago to prepare for a summer camp program. And I laid out a labyrinth in the back of a field of grass and had him use the mower to create the path in the grass. The grass was so tall that summer when the campers were there, I watched children dance. You couldn't see their little bodies, but you could see their heads going up and down as they walked around the labyrinth. As the years have passed, with the support of volunteers, I've made them with stones from quarries and rivers, flags, the kind that you put up to designate where the water is, the water lines are, canned goods. I think one year we had 1,200 canned goods that I used to create a labyrinth. Paint on canvas and on concrete. For years, I've created pop-up labyrinths using tea lights placed strategically in parking lots, in a shelter overlooking the Peace River down south, on forest grounds, outside and inside buildings, and obviously this one. I find them nearly magical, watching people walk through them and participating in them myself. So let us first begin with the difference between a labyrinth and a maze. Many people interchange these, but there is a significant difference between a maze and a labyrinth. For example, a maze contains obstacles that are incorporated to test a person's patience, to confuse one, and to force one to make decisions regarding which way they'll turn. A metaphor for life. We know that there are obstacles to getting what you want, to going where you want to be, and that's a maze created to help you grow more patience. There is an opening in a maze that is separate for the entering and a separate place to leave the maze. Moving through a maze is a worthy endeavor, but likely prompts different emotions within the participant than when one walks a labyrinth. A labyrinth involves traveling on a path that leads to a center and then leads a person back through the same gap that one had entered. Although the participant exits from the same beginning point, the idea is that the person leaving the labyrinth might be changed somewhat by the experience of going to the center of the labyrinth, that there might well be a sense of lightness or renewed strength or energy that might have been acquired along that journey of introspection. Often circular, but not always, a labyrinth contains a trail that winds in one direction and then turns in another direction. And it's different. It's a different experience if you do it by yourself. Oh, this is pretty easy. Add other people on that labyrinth, and then you're watching who you're passing, and then you're not sure which way you're going. You turn a little bit. It's totally different when other people are on the labyrinth with you, which is a reminder that life is totally different when you have other people who are in your life with you. The person on the twisting path will likely experience a little confusion, especially if the labyrinth has many circuits. This is very small. Maybe some frustration, but soon learns to trust the path. They have more patience to let go of wanting to know what happens next and to ease up on the desire to control the direction of the route. Do you see the metaphor here for one's life? How many of us struggle to control what happens to us, how we feel about it? To understand the power in trusting one's journey without the need to constantly control what happens in life. Wow. And so many of us have that lesson to learn, the ability to let go and trust the path. Starting at the entrance to the labyrinth, one prepares to move mindfully through the twists and turns, seeking to let go of where the path leads. That is, one learns to journey forward with introspection. As one moves forward on the path before reaching the center, one might consider or focus on something that happened in the past, and then to ponder what one might let go of when you get to the center, to the present moment. What negativity? What do I hold? What am I angry about that's happened in the past? When I get to the center, will I leave it here and move to the future differently? Maybe letting go of that anger and negativity. To ponder what to let go of, what needs an adjustment in perspective. To ask what is helpful for continuing to the center, to the present moment. That's the question. And then when one reaches the center of the labyrinth, the participant is invited to pause for reflection on one at that moment in the here and now. So you can pause. Sometimes people leave things in the center of the labyrinth. I've seen little Disney figures left in a center of a labyrinth. I know there's one across the street over at Unity. And some of the permanent ones, you'll find little crystals, little items left in the center where people have left a stone or a crystal. Maybe something that represents the beauty of letting go of something from the past and moving on. Sometimes people leave a memento in the center of a labyrinth, a little something that others who travel after them might notice upon arrival to the center. For some, reaching the center requires stopping to take a breath, to bow to the four directions. You can do that: east, north, south, west. Or maybe you whisper a prayer or state an intention for the future. After pausing in the center, one moves back out again on the same path that brought one to the center. This time, however, as one moves the winding trail to leave the labyrinth, thoughts of the future, maybe focusing on hopes, that becomes front and center. Therefore, when one exits the labyrinth, the person might feel different than when they first embarked on the journey. Not always is this the case, but sometimes it can be a powerful experience. I've witnessed dancers floating on the path of a labyrinth, wheelchairs rolling slowly, people doing yoga and asanas, children skipping and laughing, couples holding hands. And I've also noticed an occasional tear on the cheek being wiped away. That speaks to the idea that there is no right or wrong way to move through a labyrinth. Okay, I will say this. It is common knowledge that you don't jump one circuit to the other. That if you get in that labyrinth, you move through all the way and don't leave the path early. There's the other one. If the person in front of you is going slow, don't push them. Don't push them. That's just plain rude. The labyrinth is a powerful opportunity to build community, to let one another experience what it means to be on a journey together with others, to know that one isn't alone in life. Just last year, a child, she was around 6 years old, was walking an illuminated labyrinth. So picture this, it was dark and the tea lights were flickering. She was walking the labyrinth, and there were other people. That's the thing about a tea light labyrinth, is you can see shadows. You can't see clearly people, but you can see their shadows as they walk through, or their outlines, silhouettes. And so she was walking the labyrinth, and then I noticed she stopped. And people would go past her, but there was somebody walking behind her slowly. And when she stopped, that person stopped, and I heard her tiny voice say, "I can't figure out where I'm going." You could tell she was turning back and forth. The person behind her walked up and said, "Here, take my shirt." It was still COVID, and I think at the time, I don't think little ones had a chance to get a vaccine. So he said, this older man said, "Here, grab my shirt, and we'll find our way together." The two bumped and giggled along until they exited the twinkling trail. Did you hear what I just said? The child said, "I cannot figure out where I'm going." And the older person, not the parent, not the grandparent, said, "Here, let's find our way together." The man didn't say, "What are you doing on this labyrinth, getting in everyone's way?" Or worse, "Why did you start the thing if you don't know where you're going?" That's my inner cynic. No one has ever said that. The man said, "Let's find our way together." Now that's pretty powerful imagery, isn't it? I mean, that's a UU congregation or village operating at its multi-generational best. Essentially, the hope is that upon completion of following the winding course to the center and out again, some might acquire some strength for facing life's uncertain circumstances. The many unexpected twists and turns, often thought to have been infused with healing properties, labyrinth imagery, as I said, has emerged throughout the centuries at different times and at different places. For example, a labyrinth design was located recently on a stone. It dates back to 2,000 years ago. It was unearthed in India. Researchers think that the symbolism was likely related to helping one to escape the wheel of samsara. So if you know Hinduism, samsara is the wheel of suffering, that you can move out of the way of suffering. by following the labyrinth. In Christianity, labyrinths have been constructed for use as an aid to prayer. Some have said it's part of the Christian's journey as a Christian. Consider the one in Chartres, France. When I say labyrinth, that's the first thing that people say. The labyrinth inside Chartres Cathedral is purportedly the largest ever built. Constructed in the 13th century, it is a grand design. Now remember how I mentioned to the children how you count the circuits? 11 circuits on each side. Better bring your lunch if you intend on walking that labyrinth. No matter how one experiences a labyrinth, maybe walking, or if one is in a wheelchair, rolling along the winding path, and regardless of whether one mindfully, prayerfully, or playfully travels, it is symbolic for learning to trust the collective and individual path that is life. Richard Niebuhr said, "Pilgrims are people in motion, passing through territories not of their own seeking," something we might call completion, or perhaps the word clarity will do as well, a goal to which on the Spirit's compass points the way. The pilgrimage, the journey as represented on the path of a labyrinth, encourages us to find receptivity for the people, the places, and experiences that makes up the fabric of our existence. May we affirm and promote acceptance for one another and encourage each other on growth that is spiritual. And may peace accompany you on your labyrinth expedition. Blessed be.